to give you a tool in this video that's going to almost guarantee that your business gets more exposure and grows in a very short amount of time with little to no money. Welcome, my beautiful people. Fernando David here. And this video is probably going to be one of the most powerful videos that I've done in a long time, because it's a tool that few people are using, but it's a tool that we have used and used successfully. So I can talk about this firsthand, and more importantly, I'm going to talk about it through an article that just came out that confirms that what we were doing works and it's the future. Here's what I'm talking about, and that is using the power of social media influencers. First of all, let's talk about why the influencer market. Here's why you should be using it, and here's why this is important. In the last couple of years, this industry has emerged to be a powerhouse. So much so that, according to this article, this industry has turned into a $21.1 billion industry. When I start going into the nuances here, some of you guys are probably going to recognize why this market is growing and some of the positive and negatives. And more recently, companies have been using influencers, but they've been making a big mistake, and some of them have lost money. I'll give you a hint. Budweiser. Let's talk about the market itself, right? This market, year over year, from last year to this year, grew 29%. In addition, it has the highest ROI as it relates to marketing strategy. Let me repeat that. Using influencers by brands today have the highest ROI than any other marketing tool. In fact, 30% of marketers are seeing the biggest returns, according to a HubSpot survey, than any other marketing campaigns have done. This is why I think this is a powerful tool. This is why I think if you use this correctly, you will not only grow your business, but you're going to see an increase in revenue that you hadn't seen before, and you can do so with little to no money. I'm gonna repeat that. You can do so with little to no money, and let's get right into it, right? The first thing you need to do is identify the right influencer. This is where a lot of companies have been making a mistake. They have not identified their right influencer. Let's talk about Budweiser and Dylan Mulvaney, right? It was a huge misfire by Budweiser. But here's why it was a big mistake. Because Budweiser forgot who their consumer was. Cannot do that, people. You need to understand who is your avatar, right? Who is your consumer? And in the short-term rental game right now, and I recently did a video on this, your number one consumer is going to be Gen Z and millennials. They have the strongest buying power. But we could even niche that down even further. Depending on the type of property you have, you can find an even smaller niche or niche it down even more and get an even more direct avatar. By knowing that, then you can team up with the right influencer so you can attract your ideal customer. That is by far one of the most important things you need to do as it relates to finding the right influencer. I know some of you are going to tell me, Fernando, I'm a mom and pop operation. I have one or two properties. I can't afford to pay an influencer to market and collaborate with me on my property. Here's the beauty, people. You don't need someone that has 100, 200, 300,000 followers. You don't need that. You just have to find the right person. So I'm going to give you an example. This is going to be self-serving because it's to us. We only have 15,000 followers. If you hire us and you want to collaborate with us, it's going to be very minimal, the cost that you're going to have for the initial visit. You just have to give up 2 nights of your property. Let us go in there. Let us market that, because we get paid on the back end, meaning if I bring you business, any revenue that I bring you that's directly related to my campaign, because I'm going to identify my customer by using a code that we're going to each have, and or there's a method to the madness, and I don't want to tie this video to that, but we will identify our customers to you, and then we're going to take 10% of that revenue. It's really, the only cost to you is really the initial stay by blocking off the days. And I highly recommend that if you use us or any other influencer, especially if the influencer is an up and coming influencer, a lot of them will just take the stay. They'll take the stay, they'll do content on your property, and then you can figure out how you want to collaborate with that. And I can touch on that later, but understand that you don't need someone that has 150,000 followers. So to give you an example, we've done several collaborations with several hosts, and on average, this is the average, on average, after 2 months, they had seen an increase of 30% on a 30% increase in revenue and in engagement on their social media. Because again, if you're not on social media, I want to because you need to be. And we will be discussing on how to grow your social media so that you can bring on your own guests through social media. To recap that, identifying your right influencer is important. Understand that you do not need someone that has hundreds of thousands of followers. You just need someone that's in your niche, meaning you need to find a travel influencer. Again, they don't have to have a lot of followers, but you need to see the potential in them. You need to see what type of collaboration you can negotiate with that influencer. Number two is you have to find a collaboration with authentic content. That's important, right? You don't want to team up with someone that you know isn't authentic. You don't want to team up with someone that you know are only doing this for alternate reasons, right? Not for the reasons that you want. And really do your research. Check all their content out. See, did they just switch to travel, etc. But understand that whoever you choose to work with, because who you work with does matter, and it matters a lot, people. But when you team up with an influencer, make sure that it's beneficial for both. Can't just be one-sided, and make sure that whatever content they're producing is authentic content. Next is the power of video. I can't express this enough. In fact, I'm going to read verbatim what this article talks about as it relates to video. Here, video marketing, the first sentence alone, look, video marketing is a non-negotiable. Video marketing is a non-negotiable. 84% of all consumers that were surveyed in this survey said that they were swayed to purchase a particular item after watching a video. People, that's 84%. Just use your own logic. I'm not sure where you are in life, but how often have you been swayed by watching video? I'm gonna bet it's pretty high. I'm gonna bet if you are those people that spend a lot of time on TikTok or Instagram, I'm gonna bet that you have bought at least one item after seeing an Instagram or a TikTok video. That's how important video content is. By far, as it relates to travel, Instagram is number one. TikTok is catching up though. TikTok is a close second. I mentioned in the beginning, understanding your avatar. Who's your ideal guest? If you have a property in which your ideal guests are families, really focus on Instagram. Or someone a little older, really focus on Instagram, because TikTok and Snapchat are a very young audience. Currently, we are on all platforms, but our main focus is Instagram because the majority of my avatar, the majority of the customers that I'm trying to attract are on Instagram. Understand that. Instagram and Facebook are by far the two platforms that you should be focusing, but do not neglect the others. Next, understanding your matrix, and use matrix as a sign of success, right? Here's the thing about marketing as well. It doesn't happen overnight. You can't hire an influencer to come to your property, do some content, and it be a one-off. That will work to increase your engagement and possibly your followers on your social media, but it will not work in terms of sales. Here's why. It takes multiple contacts for a consumer to actually make that purchase. In fact, depending on who you talk to, is usually about 5+ contacts before someone decides to buy something from you. So if you're gonna work with an influencer, it has to be a long-term relationship, which is the next one, right? Here's how important this is, and this is another one that I'm gonna read because it's so important. Influencer marketing thrives on authentic, long-term relationships. Let me read this again. Influencer marketing thrives on authentic, long-term relationships. In fact, 82% of brands are dedicating budget specifically for influencer marketing, and you're sticking with a particular influencer. You should do the same. If you don't have the money to pay for an influencer to stay with you like some of these brands do, some of these influencers will market a particular brand over and over again. If you don't have that kind of money, that's okay. I highly recommend that you find either an up-and-coming influencer or someone in the middle that's willing to work with you. Like, for example, again, with us, if you hire consider us. We will come up with some type of plan that will allow us to market your specific property. And oftentimes is that no out-of-pocket money from you, with the exception of blocking off your property for us to do content in. That's the only real cost to you. Everything else we can work on the back end. And I mentioned it before with us. My goal is to bring guests to your property. My goal is to fill up your calendar. And the way I do that is by constantly marketing through email campaigns and through social media. And once we get you that guest, then we'll take our fees from there, which is 10%, right? We're going to take 10% of that particular booking, which if you have a direct booking site, is cheaper than Airbnb, it's cheaper than booking.com, it's cheaper than Verbal. And the way I like to explain it is that you need to consider us an OTA. You're paying Airbnb, Verbal, all these other platforms, you're paying them to have your property on their platforms, right? And oftentimes, it's a lot more than 10%. Consider that as how we get paid on the back end. So building that long-term relationship is going to be critical, because in marketing, nothing happens overnight. It has to be, that consumer needs to see that, or there needs to be at least 5 contacts with that consumer in order for that consumer to become a customer. Last thing I want to talk about is maximizing value through strategic influencer partnerships. And that's basically what I just talked about. Influence, and I'll read what they wrote here. Influencer marketing is not just about free content, it's about building a relationship that brings value to both parties. To give you an idea what I mean by this is, let's say you have a social media presence, right? You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you are on TikTok, and we decide to collaborate, then that partnership needs to go both ways, right? We're going to provide you some value by introducing our audience to you, but in vice versa, we want you to introduce your audience to us. And then we can grow together and have a stronger influence. In addition, right, we have partnerships with other influencers and other travel agencies and venues that we can introduce you to these other people, and then you can collaborate with them jointly. So that's what I mean by a strategic influence partnership. You have to figure out, again, who you work with matters. And if the potential influencer that you're working with doesn't have reach, doesn't have a strong network, then I would consider looking elsewhere, unless money is an issue, unless you don't have enough money, or because a lot of times, like I said, for us, money should not be an issue, but a lot of influencers will charge you a fee to go out there and do all that stuff. So sometimes it becomes difficult, but it is possible to find influencers that initially won't charge you any money, but as you start to grow, then their fee structure comes up. If you want to learn more on how to leverage the power of influencers, then subscribe to this channel. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.